Da 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 da. Hello and welcome back. It's another episode of True Crime Metrix today, ladies and gentlemen, with the part 2 of Daniel Rashbaum's cross-examination of Wendi Adelson in the 2023 trial, first-degree murder trial of her brother Charlie Adelson. Now, I was just going through some pictures of Dan Rashbaum to find a nice little slide to put up here, and I found a picture of him with no beard, which I was going to put up, but it's a little scary. It's almost like his beard has a face. I mean, I'd rather just see the beard rather than the rest of his face. He's a very strange man. I don't like him. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's got skills. I mean, his skills seem to be selling his services to Donna Adelson, who lapped it up and cleaned her plate and came back for seconds. She's hired him again, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, after that, really? I mean, even the most rudimentary screw-ups he made, stumbling over his words, getting people's names wrong, saying, what did he say to Wendy? Like, you were just on your way to see the body or buy a bottle of bourbon. Unbelievable. I mean, unreal. I think I said in the last episode, when he sat there waiting for something to object, you can see him catalog shopping in his mind, like thinking about his new wallpaper, saying, what I wonder what would look good in the den. Possibly go with the vertical striping to create the illusion of space. I don't think he needs the illusion of space. He's got a condo like no other. He probably's got a condo that makes the icon look like a used Trojan compared to where he lives. And every day on Daniel Rashbaum's menu, he's got sushi, he's got pizza, he's got Maine lobsters coming out of his ears, claws and all. The guy's main skill is catalog shopping while in court. I mean, no bones, this guy, no bones. Anyway, we're going to skip the intro today, guys. Oh, by the way, I was listening to myself. We've had a good amount of attention the last few weeks from you guys, you wonderful people. So I thought I better check out some of my own content, which I don't normally do, to see what all the fuss is about, you crazy buds. And yeah, my first thought when I was listening to myself was, who is this woman? My voice is about 3 octaves higher on the recordings than I thought it was in my own head. In my own head, I have a deep, dark, velvety voice, like someone is pouring a fine port wine right into your ear hole. In my head, I sound like exactly like Barry White, but yeah, I didn't know the vocal range was so different on it. Maybe it's the recording, or I've heard that said though, where people don't sound like themselves when they listen to themselves on tape. Anyway, what was I saying then? He sounds like an entitled, spoiled child who was fed with a silver spoon and lives his own world exactly like Donna. I couldn't agree with you more, Ekaterina. Or Ekaterina. Yeah, just reading out some comments there, guys. Rolling in already. Great stuff. Great stuff. Should we just get straight into it? I think this is going to be the final, for now, segment in our Wendi Adelson testimonies series, playlist, whatever. We've been through quite a bunch, and I think maybe I'm going to put a little poll out to the subscribers. But I'm thinking for our next series, because I quite like this thing going through multiple trials with the same witness. We've done it with Wendy. We started doing it with Jeff, but I just found out today that the first one, the part one of Jeff's testimony, I think the audio was just completely off there. It doesn't exist. So I might take that down and just restart it. But no, I was thinking of going to Catherine Magbanawar, starting her testimony in 2019. Of course, we will do 2022 and 2023. The only way you are getting out of jail, ma'am, is in a box. I mean, Daniel Rashbaum, he's got these things that he thinks are going to be really big, like really hit home, you know, and they just don't work for anybody. The judge isn't impressed. Anyway, loads to say about Daniel Rashbaum, so let's just see where this video takes us. Yeah, so in the end of our last video on this segment, Judge Everett called it a day for that day, and this is now the next day. So we're going to share this tab. And are we sharing? Yes. Welcome, everybody. Cue tape, please. Roll tape, please.
Do you recall that your parents and Charlie were quite excited to come watch you in Tallahassee at this event in August?
Yes.
Do you recall your brother saying he couldn't wait to book a ticket, that it was fucking awesome?
Yeah, he was very excited.
Do you recall discussing with Professor Markel who would have custody of the boys during various trips in August and September of 2014?
Just a word, guys. We got loads of good feedback on the audio last time, so we're looking to make sure that my voice is around the same level as the video. So if that seems to be the case, please let me know in the comments.
Yes.
Do you recall having those discussions in July of 2014?
That would make sense, yeah.
Do you recall scheduling a whole host of meetings after July 18th, 2014?
Yes.
Let me be more precise. Before July 18, 2014, do you recall scheduling a bunch of meetings that were to occur after July 18th, 2014 in Tallahassee?
Yes.
Do you recall making plans with a friend moving to Tallahassee for July 25th, 2014?
I don't.
Let me see if I can.
Okay, there's loads of like establishing this testimony of Wendy having made appointments and setting stuff up to fly back to Tallahassee. Skint the goat. Yes, sound is thumbs up. Very nice. Thank you. Yeah, this whole argument of, do you remember, ma'am, that you booked your return flight from Washington, D.C. to come back to Tallahassee in October after Professor Markel had been shot? And he, a lot of, as far as I remember, a lot of this, what do you call it, examination is establishing these kinds of facts where she set stuff up or she had stuff booked in Tallahassee after the murder. But the counter argument that Georgia Kappelman is making is like, yeah, but you were clever. You set this up to make it look like it's proving her point.
Refresh your memory. Do you know an individual named Tahira Lee?
I do.
May I approach Your Honor with Defense Exhibit 15? And I would direct you to the email on June 17th, 2014, which I think is the fourth email on the first page, and see if that refreshes your memory. But feel free to look at the whole document.
I see it, but you were asking if they were moving to Tallahassee on the 25th, or if I...
No.
No.
Do you want me to give you my new $2,000 program for
Gotta
free?
get you
Here's the thing.
premium,
At the
guys.
end of the month, I'm going to be
You're all
launching
from
my
these
new
ads.
program.
Did
you yourself, Ms. Adelson, don't read aloud.
Okay, sorry.
I'll repeat the question.
Okay.
Do you recall making plans with her where you said you would make plans with her after August 25th, 2014, because your family was coming to town?
Yes.
He really thinks that the jury are going to be like, oh, so the way the state has put it is that there was this huge multi-layered, multi-tiered conspiracy to wall themselves off and be smart and leave breadcrumbs and false trails and different leads. But she did set up a load of meetings after the murder with people that didn't really matter. I mean, that's not going to convince anybody of anything.
And that happened, that correspondence was in late June of 2014?
Yes.
Do you recall in June, you can put that aside now.
Okay.
Do you recall in June of 2014, late June of 2014, expressing interest in joining the board of a Tallahassee-based child advocacy nonprofit called American Children's Campaign?
I do.
That was in Tallahassee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Cook says, hello, you can tell that there is controlled discomfort and subtle non-verbal communication, etc., going on between the siblings. Little poll here, guys. How many people think Wendy and Charlie have boinked?
Do you recall scheduling a meeting for July 23rd, 2014, with a Professor Van Dern with the FSU College of Medicine?
So I don't, but I ran a medical legal partnership. So I would have been setting up meetings with the medical school, with the law school, with the social work school. So that would have been normal, but I don't remember it specifically.
May I approach, Your Honor? Does this refresh your recollection that you were scheduling a meeting with Professor Van Dern for July 23rd of 2014?
Yes.
Compare this guy to Christopher DeCoste. Christopher DeCoste knows how to keep the jury wanting to hear more, keep them engaged. If you haven't seen our video on Christopher DeCoste's cross-examination of Wendi Adelson, check that out on our channel page. It's that's the example of how to do this job. What Daniel Rashbaum is doing is so boring. I don't even know if there's any point in us going through this. I mean, I suppose we should, because we're doing the series is all of Wendy's testimonies, so we've got to do it, and hopefully there'll be something interesting to pick up on, but it's pretty bland at the moment.
Do you recall you can put that aside.
Okay.
Do you recall scheduling a meeting with your divorce lawyer to meet any time of the week of July 21, 2014?
Again, I don't remember specifically, but it sounds like it would have been made sense for the time.
Do you know an individual named Cindy Jean?
I do.
Do you remember emailing her and asking her if the kids were available to go swimming at the pool on July 19th to 20th?
I don't remember, but it sounds like something I would have asked.
May I approach Your Honor with Defense Exhibit 20 for identification purposes only?
You may.
Does this refresh your memory about trying to set up that play date for July 20th or July 19th with Miss Jean?
Yes.
You can put that aside. Do you recall that your mom planned to visit Tallahassee in November of 2014?
I don't remember that.
I'm showing, may I approach Your Honor with that?
I love how she's saying, I don't remember that, like, because that shows that Dan Rashbaum and Wendy haven't had this all pre-prepared, you know, like he said at the beginning, in the last video we did, part 1 of Daniel Rashbaum's Cross. We have only met 3 times, and that was when we were trying to find out where Charlie was being held, and we didn't discuss the case. We never planned any of this. I mean, how are we to believe that?
Defense Exhibit 21 for identification purposes only.
You may. Can you please take a look at this?
Yes.
Does this refresh your memory that your parents planned on being in Tallahassee on November 17th? Does that
Yes.
refresh your memory?
Mhm.
You can put that aside. Do you recall asking your parents to come to Tallahassee on August 1, 2014 for a birthday party with Ben, for Ben?
I don't remember doing that, but that sounds, it's close in time to his birthday.
May I approach Your Honor with Defense Exhibit 22?
You may.
Wayne Cook asks an interesting question. He says, has Wendy ever divulged that she sought therapy post-divorce and or post-killing? I don't believe so. She hasn't divulged anything. But, you know, she is immune to therapy. This woman is clearly high-range, cluster B, whatever, psychopath, sociopath. Talk therapy can't reach these people. You know, these sorts of people only use therapy to practice and hone their skills. Crocodile tears, you know, how to elicit sympathy, direct control, you know, I mean, there's no therapist on the planet that could reach this person and help them, you know. It's really like, you know, we're dealing with a crocodile, you know. A therapist couldn't help a crocodile. A therapist couldn't make a crocodile be nice. It's not possible.
Does this refresh your recollection that you were going to have a birthday party for Ben in Tallahassee in early August of 2014?
That's right.
You can put that aside. And that your parents were going to come up for that?
Mhm.
Do you recall making flight reservations to travel to Newark and then back to Tallahassee? So you're going to leave from Tallahassee and go to Newark, come back to Tallahassee for a wedding in October 2014.
I do.
And you made those reservations in July of 2014. Do you recall that?
I don't recall when I made the reservation, but I remember the wedding.
May I approach your honor with Defense Exhibit 23? Does this refresh your recollection that the reservation was made sometime around July 14th, 2014?
Yes.
That you were booking tickets for a wedding in New Jersey on October 24th, 2014?
Yes.
And the cost of those tickets were over $400, right?
That's right.
You put that aside. Those tickets weren't to go back to Miami, were they?
No, it was Tallahassee to Newark, Newark to Tallahassee.
Why did you make those tickets to go back to Tallahassee?
That is where I lived.
We're going to move on to another subject. Ms. Kappelman talked a little bit yesterday about the litigation that occurred after the relocation litigation with Professor Markel. You recall that?
I do.
And there were these pieces of litigation back and forth about money and about filing false affidavits. You remember those?
Yes.
There was what was called the motion against your mom that Professor Markel filed. You recall that, right?
I do.
Okay. With regards to the motion that Professor Markel filed claiming that you and your attorney filed a false affidavit, did you get the sense that you were going to prevail on that litigation?
Yes.
Was the judge getting frustrated with Professor Markel on that litigation?
Very.
Did the judge admonish Professor Markel regarding that litigation?
The judge said he needed to stop.
Were you concerned about getting disbarred?
No.
Retail business? This 80-second video is about to completely change the way you work. Ready?
I want to talk a little bit about Jeff Lacoste. You first met Mr. Lacoste in the fall of 2013.
Yes,
It was casual at first.
it was.
You were dating other people as well.
I was.
It got more serious around March of 2014.
That's right.
Fair to say he was in love with you?
I don't really remember. I don't think I could say, but it was more serious.
Okay. You weren't so sure about him. Is that fair to say?
I think my feelings developed over time,
And then they undeveloped.
and then they undeveloped.
You were very different people from very different backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
He didn't spend much time with your parents, right?
I think maybe he met them once.
He wanted to meet them more than once, right? He didn't like that he didn't get to see them more times.
I think he wanted to be more integrated into my.
Look at Phil Markel there, just scratching his nose. But as me and this audience and all the people that watch this case almost more than anything else, we can't stand listening to Wendy and we roll our eyes and we get frustrated at her blatant lies. What do you think it's like for Phil Markel, sitting there, right there, listening to this, watching her give these little smiles and all of this bullshit story, you know? He must, I guess he has a whole wide range of emotions, but it can't be fun for him. It must be very difficult to not just stand up and shout at her or something. I don't know.
My life.
Jeff Lacoste met Charlie Adelson one time in March of 2014, right?
That's right.
He accompanied you on a trip with law students, right?
I used to run an alternative spring break, and he came with me.
And you decided.
I run a medical legal partnership, and I used to run an alternative spring break. Can anyone enlighten me on that? What is an alternative spring break? Is that like instead of beer pong and orgies and wet t-shirt competitions that people study? Is that that's what I'm guessing? But if anyone knows, let us know in the comments and subscribe to the channel, guys, because we've got big plans coming out right along this week, and that's going to take us all the way up to the Sarah Boone footage, which none of you are going to want to miss. So subscribe, ring the bell so you get those notifications, because at the moment this is purely a live channel, and we love it when we get into these big conversations with you guys. So the more, the merrier. Don't miss one. Subscribe.
Decided to come down to South Florida for a day or two, right?
That's right.
And you had dinner at a place called Yardbird, right?
That's right.
Are you aware that that happened on March 11th, 2014?
No, I don't remember the date, just that it was during the spring break.
Fair enough. You remember sitting outside on the patio?
I do.
And it was you and Mr. Lacoste and Charlie and a woman named Catherine Magbanowa. Do you recall that?
That's right.
Who was Charlie's girlfriend at the time.
Yes.
Are you aware that Sigfredo?
Oh, such distancing language, Daniel Rashbaum. A woman named Catherine Magbanowa. Not just Catherine Magbanowa, and certainly not Katie, but some woman named Catherine Magbanowa. Oh, wow, that was worth $1 million.
Sigfredo Garcia was watching you at that dinner?
No.
Did you just see that? Did you see that incredibly bad high school performance, end of term play acting she just did? Were you aware that Sigfredo Garcia was watching you eat? And she does this. Oh my God. What? This total shock and surprise. Let's see it again.
Who was Charlie's girlfriend at the time?
Yes.
Are you aware that Sigfredo Garcia was watching you at that dinner?
No.
Alarm! I'm so alarmed. And then I'm going to give this nervous. No. 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 What do you mean he was watching us? Was he in the restaurant? Because I don't know anything about this. I learned something this morning.
Are you aware that he was contemplating running your brother over with his car at that dinner?
No.
After dinner, you and Jeff Lacoste stayed at Charlie's house, right?
We did.
Miss Magbanowa wasn't there, right?
I don't remember her being there.
It was just the three of you.
I think so.
And you left the next morning.
We did.
Now, you and Mr. Lacoste started having issues around May of 2014. Is that fair to say?
That sounds about right.
You started to become nervous around him?
I don't really remember if I was nervous around him, but I started thinking it wasn't the right relationship.
He started accusing you of being unfaithful, right?
He did.
He accused you of having an affair with someone that you had previously dated?
He did.
Excuse me. You told him that you didn't. You denied it.
That's right.
And he didn't believe you.
He did not.
And before this individual that you used to date, you had coffee with at a place called All Saints in Tallahassee, right?
I did.
And Mr. Lacoste saw you having coffee with this individual, right?
He did.
And that caused a confrontation.
Mr. Lacoste saw you having toffee with your coffee with Daniel Sack. Toffee, coffee, Daniel. Why were you eating that toffee?
Is that fair to say?
He flew into a rage.
Subsequently, he went through your phone and planner, right?
He did.
And this is around May, June of 2014.
That sounds right.
And you and Mr. Lacoste went to Gainesville for a weekend for his work at some point around this time frame.
Yes.
And that Saturday night, June 28th, he basically exploded at you.
He did.
He yelled at you for hours.
He did.
He accused you of having affairs with multiple people.
He did.
You were very upset, to say the least.
I was devastated. Yep.
Now, you were scheduled to leave for South Florida, I believe it was on June 30th or June 29th to celebrate your dad's 70th birthday, right?
That sounds right.
And Mr. Lacoste wasn't invited.
No.
You went down to South Florida on June 30th, and you and the boys stayed with your parents, right?
We did.
You had the boys with you the whole time.
Yes.
Dan Markell didn't have the boys at that point in time. The boys were with you.
Yes.
And Charlie knew that, right?
Yes, he was with us.
Your mom planned a big party for the birthday.
She did.
Now, I think when Miss Kappelman asked you if the birthday fell on a Saturday, you weren't sure.
I remembered it being on his actual birthday, which I thought was a Saturday, but I don't remember the calendar from 2014.
May I approach Your Honor with Defendant's Exhibit 25?
Yeah, Matt, Teomina, can you imagine how quickly she'll age in jail/prison? She's going to look like a sea hag in a week. Yeah, I think she's going to look like, you know, those fish that live right at the bottom of the deep sea where the sun doesn't even get to? Like, they've got a light on their head. You know, yeah, she's just, when all of that fake skin starts to sag and fall and just, I mean, is it even attached to her face anymore? It's ridiculous. Really, like, obvious. And okay, I've seen worse. I mean, look at Goldie Hawn. What happened to Goldie Hawn? And, you know, the list is endless of terrible plastic surgeries. But, you know, I don't think this is good, like Wendy's work at all.
Ms. Adelson, does this refresh your recollection that July 5th, 2014 was on a Saturday
Yes.
and that the party was at 7:30 p.m. or
Yes.
thereabouts?
Mhm.
Put that aside.
Oh, how perfect was that? Harvey's birthday is 5th of July. and it just happened to fall on a Saturday for his 70th. You know, God shines on the Adelsons, you know, so they can have the party on the day that's everyone's available, and it's actually the day. Okay, great. Thank you, God.
Now,
Sticky date, Nita. You're a naughty one, aren't you? Your comments.
when you got back to Tallahassee, you saw Mr. Lacoste on July 13th.
That sounds right.
And when you saw him, it was not a good meeting. Is that fair to say? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You saw him the next day at a yoga studio,
I went to yoga and he wanted to come.
and it was awkward.
It was.
And
And a Frasier fan, so we're best friends.
kind of tense.
It was.
And he asked to see you again later that week,
He did.
and you didn't want to.
I did not.
And when you got home that night, you sent him an email asking him not to contact you for at least 7 days, that you wanted to think things over. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
You never saw him again, right?
No.
Are you now aware that there was a first attempt on your ex-husband's life on June 4th and June 4th, 5th of 2014?
Yes.
When you lived with Professor Markel on Trescott, was your address publicly listed?
I believe so.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
Not only publicly listed, it was 3303 Aqua Ridge Way?
Members of the jury, when the parties agree that certain facts are true, that is called a stipulation of fact, you must accept stipulated facts as having been proven. However, the significance of these facts, as with all facts, is for you to decide. In this case, the stipulated facts that you must accept are true are: the Markel children were enrolled at Creative Preschool located in Tallahassee. During the week of July 14th, 2024, their drop-off pickup schedule was as follows. Monday, July 14th, 2024, dropped off at 8:55 a.m. by Dan Markel, picked up at 5 p.m. by Dan Markel. Tuesday, July 15th, 2014, dropped off at 8:25 a.m. by Dan Markel, picked up at 4:50 p.m. by Dan Markel. Wednesday, July 16th, 2014, dropped off at 9 a.m. by Dan Markel, picked up at 4:30 p.m. by Wendi Adelson. Thursday, July 17th, 2014, dropped off at 8:30 a.m. by Wendi Adelson, picked up at 4:45 p.m. by Dan Markel. Friday, July 18th, 2014, dropped off at 8:50 a.m. by Dan Markel.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I want to first focus.
I cannot imagine information being read out more clearly than it is by Stephen Everett, Judge Everett. I mean, if you were studying for an exam and you'd left it until the last minute, it would be worth paying him to read out the footnotes of the test. I mean, it's just like, how could you not understand everything he said? It's like the safety announcement when you get on an airplane, you know, but even better. I mean, they should get him to do that for all airplanes. You know, in the event of a crash landing on water, remain seated. And, you know,
Your attention on the July 17, 2014 schedule. On July 17, 2014, as Your Honor just recited, you recall dropping the kids off at school at 8:30 in the morning,
Yes.
and Professor Markel picked them up at 4:45 p.m. on that day, thereabouts.
Which I just heard, but I wouldn't have known what time.
You didn't pick them up that
I
day.
didn't. No, it wasn't my day.
So
Matt Teomina says, poor Jeff dates some psycho for a few months and ends up in decades-long murder drama. Be careful who you date. Couldn't agree more, Matt. You know, and I think Jeff Lacasse is just sick of this. 10 years. 10 years he's been like it'd be bad just to be affected by a bad relationship for that long, but you know, he's been really, you know, he's famous for this pretty much. In Tallahassee he must be well known, where he lives and works. You know, all of his students must constantly want to ask him about the case, and you know, he has to come dragging his little shoulder man bag into court every few years and give testimony and like answer the same questions. It's just it's like he is the case. Huge part of his life, you know, developmentally. It's really, you know, not that fair on him. I mean, it's a huge part of Georgia Kappelman's life, but that's her profession, her job, her trade, you know, and she, you know, she's got a responsibility to be part of this and see it through. Jeff doesn't by way of contract, you know, I mean, maybe he does feel like a responsibility to do whatever he can to bring justice for Professor Markel and you know, help put the Adelsons away. But you could see in his 2023 trial testimony that he does seem to be worn down. You know, in 2019 and 2022, he seemed pretty, you know, fired up to be there and to deliver his testimony. But In 2023, he didn't seem like he wanted to be there. He looked a bit ill, or as Donna would say, red and puffy and sweaty. He lied. He was puffy.
It would be impossible. The person would be wrong if they said that they saw you and the kids by Professor Markel's house in the afternoon or morning of July 17, 2014, correct?
It would be some other woman and some other kids.
You spoke to your mom probably close to daily, right?
Yeah,
During this time period. She would know when you had the kids and didn't have the kids, right?
probably.
Now, I want to go back to something briefly that we talked about yesterday before we stopped. You knew that Professor Markel posted his travel plans on Facebook and on his prof's blog, right?
Yes,
He would talk about places and conferences that he was speaking at, right?
you would.
Are you aware that on the weekend of the 20th, he was supposed to speak at a conference in New Jersey, and he posted it on Prof's blog as well as on Facebook?
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Best Buy.
You all want to listen to Mon Geezy here, who's loving the Wendy content, channel rules, keep the awesome content coming, liking, commenting, engagement, reach, algorithm, subscribe. Yeah, that's what you should all do right now. All 52 live viewers. I know some of you ain't subscribed. Click the button.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's marked for identification purposes only as Defense Exhibit 29 and 30. Looking at Defense Exhibit 29, does that refresh your recollection that the warranty was under your father's name for
Yes.
that TV?
Mm-hmm.
The warranty with the Geek Squad?
Yes.
Now, before you look at Exhibit 20, do you recall that your mother scheduled the appointment for the TV to be fixed with this Geek Squad?
I remembered that I scheduled it, but it looks like she scheduled it and gave me the number to call in case I needed to reschedule it.
And in fact, she emailed you on July 11th and told you if you can't keep the appointment on the 18th, call this number to reschedule it, right?
Yes.
You can put that aside. I want to talk a little bit more about July 18th. Do you recall leaving your house that day on Aqua Ridge Ray around 12:30 in the afternoon?
I do.
And you were going to meet a friend for lunch at a place called Mosaic.
Yes.
but you had to pick up a bottle of, I don't know if it's bourbon or whiskey. I don't even know if they're the same things, but Bullet whiskey.
Wendy in her head is like, you stupid idiot. What did you just say? You had to pick up a body? The body of Professor Markel? She's angry at that. She's like, listen, moron. We're paying you $1 million here, buddy. And you just screwed that up? A body, bullet, bourbon, biscuit?
It was bourbon.
Okay. It was for your friend's wedding shower that night?
They were having us stock the bar party, so they asked for specific kinds of alcohol to stock the bar.
And
just a note on that, you know, I remember a little while ago people were saying, well, if she was going to this stock the bar party, did she have a babysitter set up for the kids? Because Danny was going to New York, so he wouldn't have had the kids. And if she's going to the party, what happened with the kids? And the idea was, well, if she didn't have a babysitter set up for the kids, she never planned on going to the party. But then people started saying, well, it was summer in Tallahassee and they're educated people in their, late 30s, early 40s, probably a number of them have kids, young kids, and it wouldn't have been out of reason that all the kids were going as well and would have their own little kid party while the grown-ups are. But I don't know about that. It seems I could see that with an adult's birthday party, or but a bride and groom wedding shower that's stock the bar, a lot of booze getting brought and gifted. I mean, surely they're going to open some of this booze at the party. I know it's like they stock the bar for their, to set up their home with the booze they like. I mean, but it seems like if everyone's bringing a bottle of liquor, then there's going to be some drinking. And, I mean, okay, yeah, sure, kids can go to a party where there's drinking, but it would be less likely than if it wasn't a specific, bring drink kind of party, right? I mean, just doesn't seem completely right. I'm not saying it's not possible, but something's a little bit off about it, And the invitation, I don't really believe that invitation, that somebody posted where it was like, we invite you to attend the shower and bring bullet bourbon, That just doesn't seem legit somehow. It seems too perfect that appeared, And it wasn't admissible as evidence, was it? So why was that? Because it couldn't be proven to be, valid, legitimate.
I'm showing you what's marked as Defense Exhibit 32. Is this the invitation that you received?
Yes, that's it.
Judge, I would move Defense Exhibit 32 into evidence at this point in time.
No objection.
Hearsay, Your Honor.
Exception.
State of mind.
You can provide me with the exhibit.
She knows Georgia knows, but she loves the fact that Georgia knows. She thinks she can say to Georgia without saying, she thinks she can say, you can't get me. You know it was me, and you know that I'm free, and you can't get me. So do your best, Georgia, because they're having their own personal battle. And I was thinking the other day about Georgia Kaupelman and Wendi Adelson. It's almost like some kind of King Arthur legend or something, where there's Georgia Kaupelman is like a good queen, and Wendi Adelson's like this, evil, maybe a queen, but like of bad people or something. And and when the time comes, Queen Georgia will just say, to the cops, which are like the knights, right? Okay, go and get her. It's time. I want her in my chambers, in my court, sending her henchmen to just bring this person in. And after these amount of years of games and signaling and posturing with these two women that in some ways are just having their own battle, we can dress it all up with the backdrop of Latin kings and Charlie Adelson with his sex tourism and all the rest of it. Donna and Harvey and the Crooked Institute, Adelson Institute, the bump, all of that is just furniture to the story. Maybe this story really is about Georgia v. Wendy. And, Wendy seems to have this charm, this I'm not just saying this because I'm looking back and it's in retrospect. I don't believe that personality and that charm works on me. I wouldn't have let her out of that interview room. No way. I'm amazed she got out of there. I think I'm going to have to do a revisit to Wendy's interview because there's so much that we missed. Well, not really missed. I mean, it's difficult to comment on absolutely everything that's seen in that interview because there's just so much, but there's so much that she should have been in cuffs. There's no way. People go, oh yeah, but you're Monday morning quarterback. Oh yeah, you're looking back with what we know now. And I'm telling you, there was enough. General Isom should have seen. Victim advocate Sarah should have, did a bit see. Jane's just a moron who got completely just duped and still refuses to even question whether she was duped. I mean, she's standing by Wendy to this day saying, no, probably it was Jeff. Nuts.
The objection is sustained. She may testify.
I am Leslie B says, I am amazed how many open seats are in the gallery. Donna's trial will have a line around the block. Yeah, I think, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard will probably be attending and sitting in Donna Adelson's trial.
Do you recall on the left-hand corner of the invitation, it says, help the bride and groom stock the bar for their wedding and bring a bottle of Bullet bourbon. Do you recall that?
Yes.
You can put that aside.
Charlie managing, most of what Charlie has to do in this trial is manage what the jury see of him, right? I mean, Are they always looking at him? No, they're usually looking at the lawyer or the judge or the witness. But, he is there. He has to maintain his presence. And when there's this little bit of evidence, his nodding and his like, yep, you see, it wasn't her choice. So it's not connected, and it is a coincidence. It's a coincidence. Use your common sense.
Now, you decided to go to ABC Liquors on Bedden Road to look for the bourbon, right?
I did.
You're not a big drinker. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
You went to that store because you were familiar with it?
I'd seen it close to my house, so
Close to your old house?
close to my old house.
There could have been liquor stores that were closer to your current house?
Sure.
Now, when you drove to ABC Liquor, you tried to go through Trescott. Is
I
that
did.
fair to say?
It was blocked.
There are other ways to go to ABC Liquor, right? You could have gone down other roads.
I don't have the best sense of direction, so when I find a route, I just kind of keep using that route. I don't look for something else.
Okay. You got to Mosaic at around 1 p.m.
That sounds right.
and your lunch was interrupted by Investigator Isom, who told you that something had happened.
That's right.
You went with him voluntarily to speak
did.
with him?
Maybe that's why she loves Miami, guys, because I believe Miami, for the most part, is pretty much, apart from all the islands and stuff, but, you know, certainly around South and Fifth, it's a grid system, and downtown is a grid system, you know, 2 up, 3 over, easy. You know, Tallahassee is bends and winds and round and round. She must just get dizzy, you know, with all the turns. You know, she can't handle it. She needs a grid system, which is why maybe that should have been in her filing to the judge. Wife seeks to relocate to Miami because of poor sense of direction, and Tallahassee makes her very confused.
You let police search your car.
Yes.
You were interviewed with the investigator from approximately 2:45 p.m. until 7:50 p.m.
Yes.
He told you that your ex-husband had been shot and was unlikely to survive, right?
Yes.
You were in shock.
Yes.
You were pretty open with police, telling them a lot of things, right?
They kept telling me they needed my help, and so I kept trying to help.
Now, you remember on direct, Ms. Kappelman asked you about this interview.
Yes.
And she asked you about all the people you mentioned during the interview, including Charlie.
Yes.
And you said I was just wheeling off names, right?
Yes.
In fact, isn't the first person in the interview that you mentioned was yourself?
Yes.
You said that you would understand if you were viewed as the prime suspect, right?
Yes.
Before you mentioned anyone else, you mentioned yourself.
Yes.
You told them about the motion to relocate.
I did.
You told them about the fight you had with Professor Markel that very morning about some swimming for the boys.
Yes.
You were spitting out a lot of ideas.
I was.
And you agreed to let the police search your phone.
Yes.
You agreed to let the police search your car.
Yes.
That's where they found that picture that I wasn't able to admit of the invitation of the Bull of Bourbon, right?
Yeah.
You agreed to be fingerprinted.
Yes.
You agreed to be checked for gunshot residue.
Yes.
You gave him your computer to be searched.
I did.
Towards the end of your interview, you asked the police officer if you could call your parents, right?
I did.
And the police allowed you to do that.
Yes.
And you called your mother's cell phone sometime around 7:04 p.m.
Yes.
And you spoke to your mom. I don't know if you remember, but you remember your dad being in the shower because they were going out to dinner.
I don't remember.
Your mom didn't answer actually the first call, and you called back a couple minutes later and she answered. Do you recall that?
I don't.
And when you called your mom, she was surprised.
Yes.
And you asked her to call Charlie and tell him what happened, right?
Yes.
You didn't speak with Charlie that day, right?
I don't think so.
On July 19th, the next day, you spoke to Charlie at 10:50 in the morning. Is that, you won't know the exact time, but do you recall speaking with him in the morning?
I honestly don't.
Do you recall letting him know that Professor Markel had passed away in the early morning?
I don't remember the conversation.
When your parents came directly to Tallahassee, correct?
They did.
They stopped in Orlando and they got there on the morning of the 19th, right?
Yes.
And when they got there, they were scared and frantic, right?
Yes.
Your dad didn't sleep. He couldn't get police protection, so he planted his chair in the front of your window to make sure that no one was going to come to your house and shoot it up, right?
Correct.
Now, you all attended a memorial service on the 20th, right?
Yes.
And you arranged for the Markels to see the boys after the memorial service, right?
They all came over my house.
And you left Tallahassee, correct?
Not on the 20th. No.
On the 21st.
Yes.
And when you left Tallahassee on the 21st, did you bring all your belongings?
I brought some swimsuits for the boys and some pajamas, and I thought we'd be back in a day or two.
And when you left, you were not yourself.
I was a mess.
You got to South Florida and you realized that you could not take care of the boys alone at this point in time.
I hadn't slept in days and I was terrified.
To get a little more specific, you wouldn't leave the house.
No,
And you would hardly eat.
I wasn't eating, no.
And ultimately, you decided not to come back to Tallahassee.
I mean, I made that decision much later, but
And you had a friend who you grew up with, I think last name Keener, go back and get you more stuff at your house, right?
he did.
Just looking through some of these comments, guys. Rabbit says about the Stock the Bar party. Now, personally, I've always thought that there was a party. I wasn't too sure if Wendy ever intended to go to it because she knew that this was going to happen. You know, it's just another one of those things like Rashbaum spent 20 minutes going through her her bookings with the dean of oncology or whatever, all these important meetings that she'd set up after the murder, when she would be in Miami. The Stock the Bar party was just another one of those. The thing that I've always doubted is that this invitation to requesting Bullet Bourbon was valid. I think she does mention that she was told to get a certain brand way back in her original interview. But I think, and then Kerry B says, that invite was faked. That's why Charlie was so proud of it and would bring it up unprompted on the stand. Yeah, I think when we saw Charlie react just a few minutes ago, when he did that nodding, when the invitation was brought up, and he was like, yep, see, there was an invitation and it said Bullet Bourbon. That wasn't our decision, so it can't mean that we are murderers. He does that when he's tricking someone. That's his tell. That's one of his tells, So, yeah, I believe that they invented the invitation requests to say bring a Bullet Bourbon. But I always thought that the party happened and it was for stocking the bar. I just don't think she was told to bring Bullet Bourbon. I think she walked into that liquor store and said, I need to get a bottle of, something special. And he showed her a range and she saw it and thought, oh, I'm having that. That's going to be, yes, that one. That's what we're getting. Bullet Bourbon.
We have one more moment, Your Honor.
I'm spending more time looking at the comments than the video because the comments are more interesting. Keep them coming in, guys, and make sure you're subscribed. Like, share, leave a comment. But everyone's talking about Wendy's ridiculous hand gestures being a tell, and I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. She's always doing that when she's lying through her teeth. So let's all keep a close eye at the very next time Wendy's hands look like they have their own heartbeats, and they're dancing around, and just see what it is that she's going to be saying when her hands are moving like that. And we'll see if it's another lie. But it's hard to tell because most of what she's saying is complete lies.
Now, it's been said in this courtroom that you have tried to erase Professor Markel's memory from your boy's life. Is that true?
It's not true.
For the first 2 years after the murder, did you limit Professor Markel's family from seeing the boys?
Absolutely not.
In fact, they had complete access to the boys, right?
100%.
They made dinners with the boys.
I cooked dinner for them, yes, every time they visited.
There were sleepovers and play dates.
That's right.
There was no animosity at all, right?
No.
And then in October of 2016, things changed, right?
Yes.
A letter was released where there was a suggestion that Professor Markel's mom was talking to the state about arranging custody for the boys in case you got arrested.
Yes.
And you saw that as a betrayal.
Well, the custody was foster care. So yes.
You saw that as her thinking that you killed her son.
Yes.
And as a result of that, rightly or wrongly, you decided to limit their access.
I was afraid they were going to put my children in foster care.
Do your children know anything about their father?
They know a lot about their dad.
Do they have a picture of him in their bedroom?
Each boy has a picture of them and their dad over their bed that we say good morning to and good night to every day.
Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, I bet that's true, isn't it? Each boy has their own picture of Abba. In fact, what we just this last weekend, we built a life-size replica of Abba out of Lego bricks. We just got back from Legoland, and the boys said, let's build a statue of Abba out of Lego. So we got all the Lego and we tipped it out of the big box and we built a life-size statue of Abba out of Lego. Oh, yeah.
Did you benefit from Professor Markel's death?
No.
Well, you got to live in South Florida.
It's not a benefit.
Oh, what are you kidding? Miami, pizza and sushi every day of the week. That's not a benefit. Can you imagine? You got a grid system. You can find your way to a liquor store, that's not the furthest one away, past another 15 liquor stores. You just go up south, across 5th, and down Lincoln Road, Lincoln Avenue, or whatever.
How are your boys doing?
They're doing very well. Thank you.
How has your job prospects been since this case hit the news?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
How are you doing?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Has this affected your life negatively or positively?
Negatively.
Does Charlie love his nephews?
Very much.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor? Thank you, Ms. Adelson. I have no further questions.
Redirect examination.
Hey, Leslie, let's have some more information on this lady who hosted the party being dead. That's scary. I hope it wasn't questionable circumstances like rat poison in her coffee.
Long list of plans that you went over with Mr. Rashbaum that you were going to have in Tallahassee post murder date. None of those plans happened, right?
No,
Because you moved to South Florida, right?
because I felt unsafe to stay here. Yes.
And did you feel safe in South Florida?
No,
Did you buy a house in Tallahassee after the murder?
no, I did not.
Did you rent a house in Tallahassee after the murder?
No, I didn't live in Tallahassee after the murder.
Did the boys go to school that fall here in Tallahassee?
No, all our plans were broken.
And what was the purpose of those questions? Of course you didn't. You moved to South Florida. You didn't have plans in Tallahassee that got executed. Why were you asked about all those things?
I don't know why I was asked questions by the defense counsel.
The book event that you were asked about, did that event happen?
I didn't speak at the event, but the event still happened.
Have you had several events related to that book that have happened?
I have.
And what events were those?
Do you mean just in Tallahassee or do you mean in other places?
Everywhere.
I've spoken at various schools about human trafficking and about my book. I think there was one event that still happened in Tallahassee about a year later.
And is that the only book you've written, or have you written more than one book?
I've only written one book.
What was the book about?
The book was about human trafficking and about the vulnerabilities that lead to trafficking, the problems when it occurs, and basically how to recover from it after.
Where was the book set?
It was set in a fictional town.
What was the name of the fictional town?
Hiawassee Springs.
So Hiawassee. Is it located in the panhandle of Florida?
No, I used to see the name when I was driving from Tallahassee to Orlando, so it's somewhere in between.
And was the place modeled after Tallahassee?
It was definitely somewhere in Florida, but not supposed to be about Tallahassee, no.
Who was the central character in that book?
So there's 3 central characters. One was one of my clients, kind of a composite character from Eastern Europe. One was kind of a composite character of many clients I've represented from Latin America. And one was a public interest lawyer.
And was the public interest lawyer Lily?
Yes.
And is that the character that's sort of based after yourself?
No, really more based after a friend of mine.
And
Lily is a funeral flower. Huh.
Hiawassee, Florida, quote, just a small stop on the way back to what we had previously known as civilization? Is that a quote from your book?
That sounds like a quote from my book, yeah.
And who's the husband of Lily, the public interest lawyer?
You want his name in the book?
Yes.
I think it was Josh Stone.
All right. And
I love how Georgia Kappelman's not even looking at her. You know, she's got so much power. You know, she conveys power really well. She holds the mantle of power. I mean, in a good way, in not an abusive, but just like really strong woman. Great. I mean, if we didn't have Georgia Kappelman in this case, I've seen other prosecutors that would have not even had a chance against this, you know. Thank God for Georgia. Everyone check out the Georgia Kappelman Appreciation Society. I think that's Rosetta Glass's deal.
what was Josh's employment?
Josh was an English professor.
3 best chair workouts to boost your beer belly.
In this app, a personalized plan of
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
Josh was an English professor.
A professor, where did he teach?
It's been a while. I wrote the book over 10 years ago. I don't remember what I named the university in the
North Florida State University?
That sounds right.
NFSU?
NFSU.
So we've got North Florida State University in the book and Florida State University in the book. It's in Northern Florida Panhandle, this fictional town called Hiawassee Springs. In real life, Tallahassee, Hiawassee. What else was there? I mean, the Lily character is obviously based on her. She describes Hiawassee Springs as a small stop on the way to what we had previously known as civilization, being Miami. She's pissed off at her husband with all his kosher rules.
Sounds right, yeah.
All right. And in the book, does Lily lament, quote, we moved to this godforsaken place for Josh's career?
Yes, that sounds like a line Lily would say.
All right. When you looked at page 187 of the divorce document on cross, and I'll hand that back to you. This is actually my copy.
Hey guys, looking for part 1 of the footage here. Rosie Grace and Teresa in Ireland. Well, it's on the channel page. I don't know what it's called. It's a picture of Georgia. I think it's on a playlist, or maybe I've not added it yet. But if you go to the channel page and click the live tab, all the videos are there. So the 2023 testimony, first it started with George's direct examination, part 1, and then it was the rest of George's direct and a first bit of Daniel Rashbaum, and now we're on Daniel Rashbaum, followed by George's redirect. Gosh, that sounded confusing. I'll try and name them better.
Just turn back to 187. Do you see the quote that you read previously from that page?
I don't.
Okay. It had to do with, let's see if I can find it, that you were very unhappy in the marriage. I think it's the third paragraph there.
I see that line.
Okay, the wife has been very unhappy in the marriage and files her petition for dissolution of marriage in August 2012. The husband continues to characterize this as abandonment, and then it goes on to say that he had been disparaging you to some of the folks at the law school. Do you remember reading that?
I do.
Was that intended to be the place in this binder where you allege emotional abuse by your husband?
I mean, I think it's emotionally abusive to suggest somebody has mental health issues.
Okay. What is the Prof's blog? You were asked about that on Cross.
Yeah, it was a blog that Danny started with some of his colleagues to kind of promote community in the law professor world.
And who reads the Prof's?
Probably
Prof's blog?
other law professors and people interested in becoming law professors.
Who is on the Crim Prof listserv?
I don't know.
Were you on the listserv for that Prof's blog?
I may have been on the listserv at some point.
Do you remember seeing the post that you were shown on Cross?
I do.
And the post says something about Danny and I are planning to attend a conference that will begin Sunday, July 20th. Is there any other information on what you were shown about Dan's travel plans post-murder other than that?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
The post says, Danny and I guess it's another professor writing this thing. Danny and I are planning to attend a conference that will begin Sunday, July 20th. Is that the type of information that he would typically have on something like the Prof's blog or Facebook?
That sounds right.
Okay, but as far as the date he's leaving, the flight he's on, that kind of stuff, would that typically be on the Prof's blog?
He wouldn't put what flight number he was on, but he would almost always communicate when he was going on a trip.
Okay, so going to a conference that starts July 20th might be an example.
Flying to New York tomorrow would be an example.
Okay.
But
He didn't
not
put
a flight number.
But he didn't put flying to New York tomorrow on this occasion.
No.
You were referenced several times, not on direct examination by the state, but by your brother's attorney on cross as a co-conspirator. Are you charged in this case?
No.
This isn't your trial, is it?
No.
Is your brother charged with conspiring with you to do a murder?
No.
Is he charged with conspiring with you to plan a murder?
No.
Is he charged with soliciting you to do a murder?
No.
Who is he charged with doing those things with?
I don't think anyone.
Have you had an opportunity to review his indictment in this case?
I have not.
You had an opportunity to take a look at that document to yourself. Who is your brother alleged to have done these crimes with?
Catherine D. Magbanowa.
Were you on the wire in this case, Ms. Adelson?
No.
So when the bump happened, are you familiar with the event I'm referencing as the bump?
I am now.
When law enforcement approached your mother on the street and handed her a piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay, when that occurred, who did your mother call?
I don't know.
Not you, right?
Not me.
Okay. And once your brother found out about the bump, did he call you about it?
No.
Who did he call?
I don't know.
Well, you listened to the calls to authenticate the voices, didn't you?
Just to hear the voices, not to hear the content of the calls.
Okay. And the voices were your brother's voice, right?
But I listened to the calls just to hear who was on them, so I don't know what content they're referencing.
I heard your answer. My question to you now is, your brother's voice was on the calls.
He was on some of the calls.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but Ryan B says he thinks part of the whole murder plot was for there to be suspicion around them, the Adelsons, having something to do with it. Don't mess with the Adelsons. Absolutely. And especially for Wendy. She loves standing right on the line of being so blatant that you'd have to be an idiot not to know that she had part in this. But so on the line that she thinks she's just not convictable, hasn't given enough. Weird behavior isn't enough to convict her. Well, maybe that would be the case if she wasn't up against Georgia Kappelman. But I'm telling you, man, I just know it in my heart. She is not gonna be walking around for long. I don't think she'll be arrested before Donna's trial. But when Donna's convicted and sent to prison for the rest of her life, which can anyone see that not happening? If anyone thinks that there's some way that Donna could get off, people are saying, oh, well, Daniel Rashbaum is much more appropriate for the kind of defense to say, my client is elderly and infirmed and a woman, and there's barely any proof, apart from the bump and her calling Charlie and writing checks to Catherine and everything else. There's no proof that she knew anything. And she's old and she's a woman. Oh, God, she's got grandkids. And maybe they're right. Maybe Daniel Rashbaum's style is more appropriate to that kind of defense than this extortion load of crap that he came out with Charlie's defense, which was, as crazy as that defense was, it really was his only stab at saying something. The money was paid by me because of extortion. So maybe Daniel Rashbaum is better for Donna, but I still can't imagine anything that's going to get her off. If anyone's got an idea, let us know in the comments, guys, and subscribe to the channel because this channel ain't stopping. We've got so much content just not enough time in the day. I mean, if we didn't have a day job at the moment, we'd be doing this 24 hours a day. But we're doing what we can. So yeah, I think sending a message, don't mess with the Adelsons, certainly for Wendy and the others in a bit of a different way, is absolutely part of the plot.
I listened to.
Your mother's voice was on the calls.
She was on some of the calls I listened to.
Did you have any secret meetings with your brother post bump that happened in South Florida?
No.
You were asked about Jeffrey Lacasse and the way that your relationship ended. What is OkCupid?
OkCupid is a dating website.
Were you on that dating website?
I was.
Were you on that dating website at the time that you were dating Mr. Lacasse?
No, I wasn't.
And were you speaking? So I guess if you weren't on it, you weren't speaking to multiple men from the website during the time you were dating Mr. Lacasse. And I'll remind you that you
Okay, sorry to interrupt again, but Mongeezy says, can we just talk about Morgan Honeycutt back there in the audience making facial expressions and acting completely unhinged? What a sick woman. I am disgusted. She looks like Princess Fiona too. Okay, I don't know who Princess Fiona is, but what, from Shrek? Is that the one from Shrek? No. But I think there was a princess called Fiona in that. Yeah, Morgan Honeycutt. Horrible looking woman. I mean, you know, do you think you'd enjoy eating a meal with that woman or doing anything? She just looks like she's been slapped in the face by a brick, you know, and her face hasn't gone back to normal yet. It's still in reaction to this brick being just hitting her. You know, what was her role again? That Wendy's attorney from the divorce case. Was it the one that had to step down because Professor Markell had accused her of having unclean hands? Is that the same one?
provided your phone in this case, and it was Cellbrighted, downloaded.
Objection. Argument.
Approach.
Didn't you just say that you weren't on OkCupid at the time that you were dating Jeffrey Lacasse?
I don't know when we say I officially stopped dating Jeff Lacasse, but there's a chance that, I don't remember in 2014 whether I had gotten the app and started talking to people before we officially broke up.
Okay, so my point is there's a chance that he was right. You were being unfaithful, or at least talking to other people. He had a reason to be jealous.
I think he had some serious jealousy issues that may or may not have been founded.
Yeah, I think we got from your testimony that you believe he had serious jealousy issues. My question to you is, did he have a reason to be?
No.
So he was wrong.
He was wrong in June when he accused me of being with multiple people that I wasn't with. Yes.
Okay. What was wrong with Dan's mother trying to make arrangements for the kids in the event of your arrest? Wasn't that a kind thing to do?
I don't think it's kind to put my children in foster care.
Wasn't the foster care intended only to cover the time frame that it would take for her to get on a plane and get here?
She never said that.
You thought she was just going to leave them in foster care?
I didn't know what to think. They have a mother. They don't need to be in foster care.
But they wouldn't have a mother in the event of your arrest, Ms. Adelson. Wasn't that the intention of the email?
I don't know what the intent of the email was. I was not going to be arrested for a crime I didn't commit.
She didn't know that though, did she?
I don't know what she knows or doesn't know. I can't speak to that.
Do Dan's parents know whether you committed this crime or not?
I don't know how to answer that question.
How would they? particularly back at the time that she sent that email. It was fresh at that time, right?
I'm sorry, what was fresh?
All the events that were occurring, the arrests.
This is dynamite. I've got to go back a couple of minutes, and I don't care what you guys think. This is art. This is like end game chess tournament. I mean, Georgia is a bomb, man. Going off in Wendy's face. And you think the jury are drifting off like they were doing in Daniel Rashbaum's Cross? That was pathetic. That was so dull. He doesn't hold the attention. He doesn't hold the space at all. Georgia here is just layering it on, almost in slow motion. It's not hyperactive like Christopher DeCoste, as much as we love him. Totally different style. I've got to go back a little bit here. These last few questions from Georgia. There's only a minute and a half of this left. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit further in that case. I just want to see this. I don't care if you guys think it's repetitive. This is brilliant.
Phone in this case, and it was cell-brighted, downloaded.
Objection. Argument.
Approach.
Didn't you just say that you weren't on OkCupid at the time that you were dating Jeffrey Lacoste?
I don't know when we say I officially stopped dating Jeff Lacasse, but there's a chance that, I don't remember in 2014 whether I had gotten the app and started talking to people before we officially broke up.
Okay, so my point is there's a chance that he was right. You were being unfaithful, or at least talking to other people. He had a reason to be jealous.
I think he had some serious jealousy issues that may or may not have been founded.
Yeah, I think we got from your testimony that you believe he had serious jealousy issues. My question to you is, did he have a reason to be?
No.
So he was wrong.
He was wrong in June when he accused me of being with multiple people that I wasn't with. Yes.
Okay. What was wrong with Dan's mother trying to make arrangements for the kids in the event of your arrest? Wasn't that a kind thing to do?
I don't think it's kind to put my children in foster care.
Wasn't the foster care intended only to cover the time frame that it would take for her to get on a plane and get here?
She never said that.
You thought she was just going to leave them in foster care?
I didn't know what to think. They have a mother. They don't need to be in foster care.
But they wouldn't have a mother in the event of your arrest, Ms. Adelson. Wasn't that the intention of the email?
I don't know what the intent of the email was. I was not going to be arrested for a crime I didn't commit.
She didn't know that though, did she?
I don't know what she knows or doesn't know. I can't speak to that.
Do Dan's parents know whether you committed this crime or not?
I don't know how to answer that question.
How would they? Particularly back at the time that she sent that email. It was fresh at that time, right?
I'm sorry, what was fresh?
All the events that were occurring, the arrests.
That was 2 years after Danny's murder. I don't know what she knew or didn't know. I know that my children don't belong in foster care.
Was it a specific foster care that she was requesting be called in the event that the children had no place to go and were going to be going into the custody of the state?
She did suggest a specific foster care agency.
A Jewish-run foster care agency.
A Jewish foster care.
Well, is there a little bit more? That didn't come to a close. I want to hear Georgia say, "No further questions," like she always does with Wendy. There's got to be a part 3 here. Part 1? What? Okay, hold on, guys. We're not going to leave any stone unturned here.
list of plans that you went
Danny's
When you come face to face with a process that's not working, are you paralyzed by that?
murder. I don't know what she knew or didn't know. I know that my children don't belong in foster care.
Was it a specific foster care that she was requesting be called in the event that the children had no place to go and were going to be going into the custody of the state?
She did suggest a specific foster care agency,
A Jewish-run foster care agency.
a Jewish foster care.
How many times have the kids visited Dan's parents since this murder?
Many. It can be hard to count.
Countless times?
Countless times.
How many times have they seen him in the last year?
We had a visit with Danny's dad and the boy's cousin this summer. We've had a lot of Skype visits. They do live in Canada, so it makes it a little bit harder to have in-person visitation. But every time they've asked for it, we've arranged it.
Every time they've asked for a visit, you've arranged it.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times have they seen him in the last 5 years?
Again, we
Countless?
As in the last 5 years, that overlaps with the time when they tried to put them in foster care. So since we've reestablished relations, we've seen
that
them.
overlaps with the time that I was punishing them to say, if you ever suggest to the legal office that is looking into me and my family that I might be held account for my actions, then you'll never see the boys again.
About twice a year, whenever they come down to Florida.
So in the last 5 years, they've seen him how many times? 2 or 3 times a year?
About that.
Has this been a major issue between you and Dan Markel's parents? This issue of them having access to the kids?
The issue of them trying to put them in foster care is a major issue.
No, ma'am, that's not my question.
I'm sorry.
Hasn't the issue of them trying to get access to your kids been a major issue, at least for them?
Since they tried to put the children in foster care, yes. Before that, it was not a problem.
Are you familiar with their work across the street at the legislature trying to get bills passed to give grandparents rights to see kids?
I'm familiar with their grandparents' legislation, but it's actually unconstitutional.
Whoa.
Okay. Are you mad? Are you angry that according to your brother's theory, he and your mom have known who killed your children's father since 2014, and you weren't told who it was?
I'm more angry that somebody killed my children's father.
So you're not mad about that they knew this whole time? That's what they're saying.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
That's the theory of the defense in this case, is that he's known the whole time. Your brother's known what happened to Dan. Does that make you angry?
I'm angry about so many things. It's hard to
Is that one of them?
separate them.
Well, try.
I'm confused. It's hard to process.
And apparently, according to his lawyer, these killers had threatened to kill your brother's family members as well. Did you hear that?
I did hear that.
And that would be you, right?
It was.
Were you told that a specific threat had been made by the same people that had killed your ex-husband to kill your brother's family members?
I was not told.
Would that have been information you would have liked to know back in 2014?
Yes.
Would you have made the same decision to move down to South Florida, closer to the killers?
No, I would not.
And even after the killers were arrested in 2016, you weren't told that that's what was going on the whole time.
I found out yesterday.
No further questions.
Oh.
She got her. She got her good on that question where she said what everybody's wondering about. Will Wendi Adelson be arrested? When she asked the question about foster care for the kids in the event of her arrest. Nailed her right there. And she knew it too. You saw her squirming when she was asked the other questions about just learning yesterday about her brother and her mother knowing who the killers were all along, because brother's been victimized in this extortion plot, according to the defense legal theory here. Wow, I can't wait to see what happens. Remember, my friends, there's a chance Wendi Adelson could still be charged in her ex-husband's murder, okay?
For just $49, you can make as many AI human videos as you want, and you never have to.
Okay, friends. That concludes our series on Wendi Adelson's court testimonies. We've been through the whole bunch. We've been through the 2019 trial, the 2022 trial, and now the 2023 trial. The next time we see Wendi on the stand will be at her mother Donna's trial, supposedly. And then after that, her own. Where what are we thinking, guys? Are we thinking that Wendi will testify in her own trial when that happens? I think the consensus is that Donna will certainly testify in her own trial, but possibly Wendi might be the only defendant, apart from maybe Sigfredo, but I don't think that can be included in the you know, the family tree of the Adelsons is a total different kettle of fish. We're not talking about Sigfredo here, but possibly Wendi will be the only Adelson smart enough not to testify in her own trial. I mean, if her last testimony here, which apparently was her best one, is anything to go on, I don't think she's doing herself any favors. She just seems to have this impossibility to speak to the people of Tallahassee in any way that they will buy anything she's selling. I mean, it's a joke. And if Georgia, you know, Georgia has to be, Wendi has use and derivative use immunity. So Georgia's putting the pressure on. She started to ramp up the pressure in Katie's retrial. And in this trial, it got almost heated. But still, Georgia has to be really careful with what is discussed, because when it comes time to prosecute Wendi, anything she says here can't be used in that prosecution. So if Georgia has information that she wants to use in prosecuting Wendi, you know, it's got to be held back. But she still puts the pressure on. So it's almost like a movie trailer, you know, it builds the tension, but we don't get the big picture until it's on, baby. I mean, so we're going to put this series down for now because that's all we've got to work with for now. But yeah, be sure we're coming back for Wendi's testimony at Donna's trial. Hit subscribe. What are we going to do next, guys? I've been thinking we'll go on to do a similar thing with Catherine Magbanua, because she's testified in all three trials, and you know, it was pretty gripping stuff, a lot to unpack. You know, we get a chance to see Sarah Dugan do her thing as well, which as I've said before, she's got a completely, well, not completely, I mean, Sarah Dugan and Georgia Kappelman have a real sisters are doing it vibe, you know. I mean, they're cut from this. You can just tell they work brilliantly together when they're discussing all this and planning this strategy and coming up with the evidence and you know, those huge boxes of papers that lawyers have, and they're going through them all and whiteboarding it out, notes, practice runs. They're what a team, what a dream team. I mean, one of the best I've ever seen of a prosecution table, you know. So Sarah, certainly in this trial and in Katie's retrial, for the most part, handled the much more, you know, data orientated examination. She talked to the cell phone tower guy. She talked to the financial examiner guy, woman, you know, going through those documents of technical data or financial data. But in Katie's retrial, it was Sarah Dugan that did the cross-examination, and it was feisty, more than Georgia. I mean, different energy level. And Katie's pretty feisty in a way as well, you know. Not the sharpest bulb in the bulb box, but, you know, gets a little bit of attention. So what are people thinking, guys? Should we move on to Katie next, or maybe go back to Jeff Lacasse, or Luis Rivera? What would people like to see? Maybe I'll put a poll out on the for the subscribers to give a few options about where we should go next with this, because I think we're going to stick with this case, you know, at least up until the Sarah Boone trial, which is kicking off May 13th in 7 days' time. So what is that? Next Monday. We're going to be covering that live as it happens. So make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell so you know when we're live and you can join the conversation. We love to have you here. We are so close to reaching our 500 subscriber milestone. I think we're about 77 to go. So I think we'll get there before Sarah Boone. That'll be great. Then we're going to be releasing all the fucking merch, the merchandise. Got some, you know, you guys have put some great ideas out there for t-shirts, and you know, I want to see them too. We've been working on a few designs, and we're going to be getting those out to you soon. Just going through the comments here before we go and sign off for the evening, guys. See if there's any primo material here. God, there's a lot to get through. Thanks so much for your comments, guys. Okay. I'm just thinking, should I put something on for 5 minutes? Maybe Maria Descalzo? How long is that? 30 minutes. That's a little long. Is there a quick one? What about Wendi Adelson's podcast? Or should we have a look at Grish's channel? Oh, did you all see this? What are people thinking about that, eh? I mean, this Grish guy, if you haven't seen his channel, check it out. It's Grisch. Yeah, he's always going on about how he thinks in pictures, and I never really knew what that meant until I saw his channel. And the guy absolutely thinks in like visual you know, framing. But are people 100% convinced that the cop at the airport that I called Juan Martinez is Sammy? The guy from the bump, the undercover. I mean, let's look at it again. I mean, I think he's lost a bit of weight, but I'm like 95% sold on that. You know, it's pretty nuts. And would it make any sense? I mean, why would the undercover cop be at the airport? And hadn't he retired? I remember him saying in Katie's retrial that he'd retired, but maybe that was just from being undercover. Mongeezy says, please cover Wendy during the local news segment. Which one was that? Local news segment. All right, if anyone has a link to that video, I'm not sure which one you mean there. Is that the one where she's reading like, first we got married, and then he got murdered. I was valedictorian at my high school. I mean, yeah. Oh, Rabbit says, do Luis Rivera. He's a criminal, but he did tell the truth. Amazing facts. Yeah. Maybe we'll go into Luis Rivera. I got an idea. I think it will be a 6-part series. We'll do direct examination video 1. Then there's 2 cross-examinations from the 2019 trial. And all right, so it'll be like a 7-parter. Okay, well that'll take us up until Sarah Boone, right? Yeah, maybe we'll do that. We'll give it a little bit of thought, and yeah, I might put his first testimony on tonight to go to sleep to, refresh my mind. Yeah, Leslie likes Grish as well. He's really good. And Matt Teomina says, yes, definitely the bump guy. Oh, he said, remember me? Wow. Oh, wow. Let me see that again. Wow. I mean, that's crazy. Really cool. But did he just want to be there because of his involvement in the case? And you know, the blog is Wendy. The blog was Wendy. Yeah, okay. All right, looks like we're doing Lewis starting tomorrow, guys. Same time, around about the same time. Oh, Wendy goes on some local news segment to promote her book. Oh, yeah, with her legs. And her legs. Oh, well, how long is that? Should we do that now? All right, it's 5 minutes. We'll do it now.
Sherry, thank you so much. Well, human trafficking is a widespread issue going on right here in our backyard. We have with us this morning clinical professor at Florida State University's College of Law, Wendi Adelson, with a book, and hear more to discuss about human trafficking. And again, like we said, just it's a widespread issue that it's hard to believe it is happening right here in the United States. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you
So
for
nice to be
being here with us. So before we get into it and get into your book, how is it that these women get here to the United States, and why the United States?
Sure. Human trafficking is a problem that happens all over the world. And oftentimes people think it's just people who come from other countries. But actually victims of trafficking are sometimes born in the US or have legal status in the US. So it's people coming in as well as people who are born here. And we're talking about sex trafficking as well as labor trafficking. So domestic servitude, agricultural.
Big nervousness cues from the fast talking. I mean, Jesus Christ, lady, give us a minute to digest. It's worse than Maria Descalzo. You know. Your Honor, I am representing Daniel Adelson, who is seated to my left. God, what is she even saying? When someone talks this fast because they're so nervous to be on TV, it's like, you know. And what is with the smiling? Victims of human trafficking come from all over the world, and they have terrible abusive histories.
In the US. So it's people coming in as well as people who are born here. And we're talking about sex trafficking as well as labor trafficking. So domestic servitude, agricultural industry, as well as the commercial sex industry, which seems to get the bulk of the press.
So you're saying maybe someone who's a housekeeper.
Sure.
And
Yeah, again, she's like, as well as the commercial sex industry, which seems to get the bulk of the press, because you know how people like sex. It's just bizarre and inappropriate. I mean, and this skirt, I mean, wear whatever you like, but it is very, very short, isn't it? I mean, the news person has a short skirt, but Wendy's like really short. That's super short. Upper thigh.
It could be being abused right there under the roof of the person that she's working
It's
for.
very, very possible.
Okay.
Right. So
All right.
it's exploitative labor conditions.
Hands, palms up, palms up. She's a truth teller.
Whether it happens through force, fraud, or coercion.
Okay. And I was reading some statistics. 17 to 25,000 women are brought into the United States every year and used as sex slaves. It seems, I mean, is that an accurate number?
I mean, as far as I know, it does seem possible. We are seeing a large amount of cases, but it's the type of thing that's really hidden in plain sight.
Mhm.
So people want statistics, and they want statistics for good reason, but it's very hard to know in truth how big the problem is.
Let's talk a little bit more about your book. You're an immigration lawyer, so you deal with women like this all the time. What do you want people to get from your book? What do you want them to understand?
Sure. I want them to see the
I want them to understand how bad Tallahassee is and how it's all Professor Markel's fault that I have to live there. And when we conclude our plan, it'll be like a record of my intent. You know. And that'll be, I like to leave Easter eggs wherever I create my mischief and mayhem so that people will think they know it's me, but not really have enough evidence to convict. That's what I would like to achieve with the book. This is our story. Even the title is like a cryptic crossword clue.
Human side, the human face behind this issue of human trafficking. I want them to understand that these are people who are vulnerable, and that's what leads them to be trafficked, and that they are people who are capable of great courage and great joy. There's a lot of humor built into the book. It's not it's not an altogether dark book. It really exposes the fact that these are human beings, these are individuals, and they come here seeking a better life, and they are duped into an experience that's far beyond what they would have imagined.
That's interesting that you said that the book has some humor to it, because it just seems like such a serious issue.
It is a very serious issue. I don't mean to make light of it, but
This news anchor, or maybe that's not the right word, but the network lady is freaked out by Wendy. She's showing that in her comments. She's saying it's interesting that you make light of it because it's such a serious issue, which doesn't really go in sync with how you're representing yourself. If you had a serious author on here who had seriously looked at an important issue, they would not be coming on to talk about it like this at all. It's just off center, whatever the word is. It doesn't add up. And that's the thing with these Adelsons. When they try and act like human beings, they get it a bit wrong. And the result is just this kind of weird, what the fuck is going on here? What is this? Why is it weird? But they're so committed to bringing you into their desired portrayal that most people just kind of get confused. And I think in the subconscious of the other person that they're dealing with, like the news lady here, in the subconscious, they're like, you know what? It's easier just to go along with this than for me to question it. So I think that's how they operate. That's their MO. That's how they get through these situations, because they know people just shut down, because the brain has this reaction to say, if you look any further into this, you might realize that true evil exists in the world. And it's like a safety switch. It just switches off and goes, okay, let's just play along with this, because that'll be easier, and then I can not have nightmares for the rest of my life.
But I included the character of their attorney who tries to help them through the process of their criminal trials and their immigration legal experience, and really tries to help them move on. It's an experience that really breaks their spirit.
Why is she smiling like that? It's an experience that really breaks their spirit. And these poor Puerto Rican hookers are being beaten, and the pimps take all their money. Ah ha 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 ha.
And the book doesn't end right when they're discovered, right when their experience of trafficking ends. The book continues on to show them trying to live normal lives in the United States and trying to move forward.
Because for many of these women, even though they are free from these traffickers, they still live with this sense of fear, because
Absolutely.
One of the reasons, and I'm assuming here, and please correct me, is if they leave, if they run away from these men that are holding them, they can possibly hurt their families,
Absolutely.
kill their families.
Sure.
So
I gotta think, though, that this little segment here is pretty useful for someone like Georgia Kappelman, who needs to have all the information that she can gather about Wendy. And what is Wendy showing us here without any room for a denial is that this situation has made her incredibly nervous. I mean, she might as well be turning bright red and sweating, all over the news anchor. It's if it were anyone else, I'd feel a bit sorry for them, because they're clearly out of their depth. They don't know what to do, and it's not comfortable to be in that situation. But so what is it that's making her nervous? Being on TV? Being next to someone who's on TV for a living, so they're really comfortable doing it, and she's not comfortable, and is it as simple as that, or is there something deeper? She's talking 100 miles an hour. She's sitting incredibly rigid, completely doesn't know what to do with her hands or her legs. The news anchor has her legs crossed. I think if Wendy had her legs crossed, we could see all the way up to Topeka, Kansas, if you know what I mean. And yeah, it's but Georgia Kappelman could look at this and find those pressure points within Wendy. What makes her nervous? What pressure points do I need to press when I'm questioning her on the stand?
They always live with this fear.
They aren't necessarily physical chains, but there's a large amount of psychological coercion that goes into convincing people that they will.
It's almost like she's on coke, but I don't think she's on coke. You know? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's a cokehead, but to me that doesn't look like coke. But she's so fast that it's difficult to find, the head movements, the hands, the eagerness to come in and talk. I mean, it's like they've told her, listen, you've got 45 seconds to make your point, and you've got to say everything in 45 seconds, and then we're off air. And she's got so much to say, but again, I don't think they just have a chat, and it's probably not live. They edit it.
Harm their families. There's a large amount of psychological coercion that goes into convincing people that they will harm their families if they try to leave, and that keeps people in servitude.
Now, there's some laws in place to try and shut down human trafficking, but there's something that also we as citizens can do. You said that there are some places we may drive by, and it could be going on behind those doors, and we may not even know it.
Sure,
it's kind of like hidden places. What should we be keeping an eye out for?
That's a great question in terms of what are indicators of human trafficking that you might see. I mean, anytime you see a situation where you feel like someone is being victimized in some way, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, there are hotlines. The Department of Children and Families has a hotline that you can call if you see something that looks a little bit suspicious. If you see a young girl, maybe from the same or a different ethnic group, taking a shower outside, if you see a young person in the neighborhood that doesn't seem to be attending school, that seems to be in the home.
How young are some of these women or girls?
I mean, they could be as young as 5, 6, 7. If we're talking about individuals serving as domestic servants in homes, people working in the agricultural industry. I mean, there are so many industries, especially in Florida. Florida is actually the 3rd worst state for human trafficking.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this issue with us.
Yeah. And how about your brother going to Guatemala and the Philippines and Colombia, where everything is for sale, and well, trying out the local produce, if you know what I mean, and with all restrictions removed. How about that, Wendy, for your human trafficking work, as a study? We could just ask Charlie. So how much does it cost to, well, you can imagine. And he's talking about that in the hot tub with Jeff, with good man Jeff. Crazy. Yeah. Got so many got so many comments. You know what I need, guys, is a moderator, someone to help me with these comments, because because I have to click, or maybe there's a better way to do it with StreamYard. Yeah, I've got to spend some time like having a look at StreamYard and seeing if it does anything that I need it to do. I mean, it's all right. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Neety says she uses a lot of words to say absolutely nothing at all. I couldn't agree more with that, Neety. It's like, what are you saying? Oh, there's Wendy right on the cover. Any other short videos out there, guys? I feel like we should do one more just before we sign off, because I haven't gotten to the end of these comments yet. Or should we leave it there? Yeah, well, we'll definitely be starting. The overwhelming consensus from all of you guys in the comments was that we should be doing Luis Rivera series next. So we're going to be doing all three testimonies, 2019, 2020. Well, maybe, well, no, I think if we do his like interview with police where he's like making the deal, which is really bad audio, so maybe we'll do that one, maybe we won't. But we're starting with the 2019 testimony tomorrow, which is a pretty good one. I think that's the first one. So there's all that getting to know you stuff with Georgia and with Christopher DeCoste and with Mr. Hand Grenade. And yeah, it's, he gets a little agitated when Christopher DeCoste is like, understanding your reluctance at the next topic, let's get into it. The Latin Kings. Man, is this the Latin King case or the murder case? Man, there ain't no Latin King case. He's funny. He's great. And who else should we do? Jessica Rodriguez. Maybe that'll bring fancy fiction into the channel. What do you think, guys? I know she likes the Jessica Rodriguez, and so do I. So do I. And does anyone know where we can get a copy of Wendi Adelson's book without giving her any money? Is there like a third party that, because I need to read that thing. I need to go through that book with a fine-tooth comb, and we're going to be putting out some videos about the book. I don't know what they're going to be until I read it, but maybe it'll be a general review, or if there's stuff in there that I pick up on that's really like worth mentioning to the case, maybe we'll do like a bit of a mix video with some of her testimony and some stuff from the book, or whatever. Don't know how that's going to look like, but you should all make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because that's coming soon. A little Adderall. Yeah, maybe. We know they like the prescription pad, these guys, huh? God, so many comments. So many comments, I can't even put them all on the screen, guys. It's gonna take too long, and there's nothing playing in the background. Yeah, let's talk a little about your brother's sex tourism. Yeah, disgusting. Disgusting. Kerry B would be a great moderator, but she shows up too late. I don't even know how that works, you know. I just want someone to do this, this part of it, so we can just focus on the stream, yo. There's got to be a way to make it automatic. Like I said, I'm going to have a look around StreamYard. Anyway, guys, it's 1 in the morning over in Portugal right now, and we got an early start, so I think we're going to sign off. But we can't thank you enough for all the love today, folks. Really nice to see you all in the chat. Das Ward, welcome. You made it just in time before sign off, but go back and watch the video because it's, you know, because we went through a lot. We've concluded the Wendi Adelson testimony series for now until Donna's trial. Is that set? Or I think they're going to have a what do you call it? A whatever you call it, a review, you know. Oh, hey, Lisa. Yeah, we're just signing off now, but you can go back and watch it again. In fact, all of you should do that. Yeah, thanks, Doe, and Rosie, and Rabbit, and Lisa, and Leslie, and Doss. So many guys. No further questions podcast. Oh, I got to check that out. Okay, guys, we're going to leave it there. Be good to yourselves. Be kind to each other. Have honor. And, you know, just don't be an Adelson. Do not be an Adelson. And hit like. Yeah, Lisa, that's what we're talking. Smash the like button. Smash it to pieces and subscribe. Bells. Whatever. Go, go, go. No stopping this channel. Metrix is here to stay. Right. Over. See you later, guys. Mwah. Justice for Dan.